You're not disturbing me. I'd much rather be talking than writing anyway. And yet here I find myself writing day after day. Just haunted by that one thought. I must write. I must write. I must write! This is my study. The room in which I write my stories. Built it myself, actually. Cut the timber and fitted the logs. Made an awful mess of it. I write my stories here on the side of the room because there's a leak in the roof directly over my desk. My desk, I move it, but it covers a hole I left in the floor. And the floor! I built it on the side of a hill, so when heavy rainfall, it tends to slide downhill. Many's the day I've stood in this room and passed by my neighbors on the road below. Still, I'm happy here. Although I don't get as many visitors as I may like, people always think that writers are always thinking. Not true in the slightest. Even my dear sweet mother tiptoes up the stairs and leaves my meals outside the door. I haven't had a hot meal in years. Still, I get a good deal of writing done here. Perhaps too much. I look outside the window and I ask myself that one question. What force makes me want to write so incessantly, day after day, page after page, and story after story? And I find that the answer is quite simple. I have no choice. I'm a writer. Some people think I'm mad. Oh, I'm quite harmless. Though I do admit to fits of wandering. Sometimes I find myself engaged in silent conversations where I hear nothing and see only the silent movement of lips. And I think to myself, oh, yes, of course, I answered meaninglessly. When all the while I'm thinking, he'll make a marvelous character for a story, this one. Though, while I'm writing, I do enjoy it. I even enjoy reading the proofs. But once it's put into print, I can't stand it. I see everything that's wrong with it. I see that it's entirely a mistake, and that it ought never to have been written. And the public reads it. Yes, charming, clever, but a far cry from Tolstoy. Oh, yes, a fine thing, but I like Turgenev better. And so it will be to my dying day. Charming and clever, nothing more. My friends will walk by my grave and say, here lies a good writer, but I like Turgenev better. You know, before you came in, I asked myself the question, maybe I should just give this all up. But what would I do instead? Well, I've never told anyone this before, but I think I will, to you, the audience, in the theater tonight. Well, you see, ever since I was a small child, I've always, oh, yes. I'm sorry, excuse me. My mind is have been overwhelmed with an idea for a short story. It was my mentioning of the theater that made me think of it. Tell me if this appeals to you. It begins in a theater. It's the opening night of the season. And into the theater come the dear and devoted patrons of the arts, greeting each other in the grand salon, talking about what this one's wearing and how that one looks, scarcely knowing the name of the play they're about to witness, with the exception of one man, Ivan Ilyich Chernikov. If Ivan Ilyich Chernikov, a public servant, a minister in the Ministry of Public Parks, had any passion in life at all, it was the theater. Of course, he had his sights set on higher offices and had dedicated his life to hard work, patience, and zeal. But he could not deny himself his life's one great pleasure. And so he bought himself 2 tickets to the best section of the theater for the opening night performance of Rostov's The Bearded Countess. And as fortune would have it, into the theater that night came his respected superior, General Mikhail Brasilov.
Good evening, General.
What? Oh, yes, good evening.
But permit me, sir. My name is Chernikov, Ivan Ilyich. This is a great honor for me, sir.
Yes.
Like yourself, dear General, I too serve the Ministry of Public Parks. Well, that is to say, I serve you, who is himself the Minister of Public Parks. I'm the Assistant Chief Clerk in the Department of Trees and Bushes.
Ah, yes. Keep up the good work. Very nice.
My wife would very much like to say hello, General. This is she, my wife, Madam Chernikov.
How do you do?
My pleasure.
My pleasure, General.
How do you do?
Madam Brasilov, my wife, Madam Chernikov.
How do you do, Madam Brasilov?
How do you do?
I just had the pleasure of meeting your husband.
And I am my wife's husband. How do you do, Madam Brasilov?
Sorry. Terribly sorry.
I hope you enjoy the play, sir.
I will, if I can watch it.
Pleased with himself for having made the most of this golden opportunity, Chernikov leaned back in his chair to enjoy the performance of The Bearded Countess. If one were being generous with the situation, you could say they were familiar. But then, like a bolt in a thundering sky, Ivan Ilyich Chernikov reared back his head and...
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, Your Excellency. I'm so terribly sorry.
Never mind. It's all right.
All right, it is certainly not all right. It was inexcusable. Monstrous of me.
You make too much of the matter. Let it rest.
How can I let it rest, though, sir? I mean, it's disgusting. Permit me to wipe the back of your neck, sir.
Leave it be, I said. Never mind.
But what has splattered you? Your complete head is splattered. It was an accident, I assure you, but still, it's gross.
Try as he might, Chernikov could not get the incident out of his mind. The sneeze, no more than an innocent anatomical accident, grew out of all proportions in his mind until it began to resemble the sound of a booming cannon aimed squarely at the enemy camp. And Chernikov played the event slowly back in his mind so he could watch in horror the infamous deed.
Charming. Oh, charming. Didn't you find it charming, dear?
Yes. Charming.
Oh, I found it so charming.
Yes, charming.
Excuse me, Excellency?
Who's that tapping? Somebody's tapping me. Who's that tapping?
I'm tapping, sir. I'm the tapper. Chernikov.
Stand back, dear. It's the sneezer.
I can assure you I'm all sneezed out. I was just concerned about your going into the night air with a damp head.
Young man, forget it. It was a trifle, a mere faux pas. Amusing play, don't you think? Didn't you find it amusing?
Amusing? oh my goodness, yes. I haven't laughed as much in years. It's so true.
Yes. And what part did you find most interesting?
The sneeze? When I sneezed on you. It was monstrous.
Forget it, young man. Come, my dear. It looks like rain. I don't want to get my head wet again.
You shouldn't let people sneeze on you, dear. You're not to be sneezed at.
I'm ruined. Ruined. He'll fire me from trees and bushes. He'll send me down to branches and twigs.
Come, Ivan.
What?
You mustn't let it concern you. It was just a harmless little sneeze. The general's probably forgotten it already.
You really think so?
No! I'm scared, Ivan!
And so they returned home.
Perhaps I should buy the general a nice gift. Maybe some Turkish towels.
Come to bed, Ivan.
Chernikov's once promising career had quite literally just been blown away.
Or perhaps I could call the general again, but explain things in such a charming and self-effacing manner. He'll have no choice but to forgive me.
Maybe it's best not to remind him, Ivan.
No. If I want to become a gentleman, I must behave like one.
And so the morning came. And it so happened that the general was taking petitions. But there were 50 or 60 ahead of Ivan, and so he waited in line from morning to late afternoon.
Next.
Oh, I'm not next, Your Excellency. I'm last.
Oh, very well then. Last.
That's me, sir.
Well, what is your petition?
Well, I don't have a petition, sir. I'm not a petitioner.
Then you waste my time.
Well, do you not recognize me, Your Excellency? We met last night under rather explosive circumstances. I'm the sneezer.
The what?
The sneezer? The splatterer, the sneezing splatterer?
Yes, and what is it you want from me now? A gesundheit.
No, Excellency. Your forgiveness. I just wanted to point out that there was no political or antisocial motivation behind my sneeze. I mean, it was a non-violent, nonpartisan act of God. I curse the day this protuberance formed itself upon my face. It's a hateful nose, sir, and I'm not responsible for its indiscretions. I mean, exile my nose, but forgive me, Your Kinship. Forgive me!
My young man, I'm not angry with your nose. I don't have time for your nasal problems. I mean, I suggest you go home and take a warm bath, or a cold one. Do something. But don't bother me with this silly business again. Gibber, gibber. That's all I mean, gibber, gibber, gibber.
Thank you, sir. May God bless you and your wife and your family. May your days be sweet, and may your nights be better than your days.
The feeling of relief that came over Chernikov was enormous.
May the birds chirp in the morning at your window, and may the coffee in your cup be strong and hot.
The weight that was lifted off of his shoulders was inestimable.
I worship the chair you sit on. Oh, and the uniform that you wear that sits on the chair that I worship.
So Chernikov walked home, singing and whistling like a lark. Life was a joy, a marvel, a heavenly paradise.
Oh God, I am happy. And yet,
when he arrived home, he began to think.
Have I been the butt of a cruel and thoughtless joke?
Had the minister toyed with him?
If the minister had no intention of punishing me, why did he torture me so unmercifully?
If the sneeze was so forgivable, why did the general purposefully torture me to make him writhe in his bed every night?
The twist and agony.
Chernikov was furious!
I am furious!
He foamed, and he fumed, and he paced the night through. And when the morning came, he called to his wife, Sonia! Sonia!
Sonia! I have been humiliated.
You, Ivan? Who would humiliate you? You're such a kind and generous person.
Who? I'll tell you who. General Brazilov, the Minister of Public Parks.
What did he do?
The swine. I was tormented so unmercifully, it was almost indiscernible. The man's cunning is equal only to his cruelty. I mean, he practically forced me to come down to his office and beg on my knees. I was reduced to a gibbering idiot.
You were that reduced?
I must go back and tell him what I think of him. The world must be made safe so that men of all nations and creeds, regardless of skin color or religion, will be free to sneeze on their superiors. It is he who will be humiliated by I.
And so when the morning came, Chernikov went to humiliate he.
Last.
Well, do you not recognize me, Your Excellency? Look at my face. Yes, you're quite correct. It is I once again.
It is you once again who?
Chernikov, Excellency. I've returned taking neither a hot bath nor a cold one.
Who let this filthy man in? What is it?
What is it? What is it, you ask? You sit there and you ask me, what is it? You sit there as General and Minister of Public Parks, a member in high standing among society, and ask me, a lowly civil servant, what is it? You sit there knowing full well that in this world, there are those that bow and those that are bowed to, those that obey and those that are obeyed, those that serve and those that are served. You sit there knowing full well that in this life, some events may take place that cause some of us to be humiliated. And then there are those that are the cause of that humiliation, and still you ask me, what is it?
Yes, what do you want? Don't just stand there gibbering like an idiot. What is it?
I'll tell you what it is. I just wanted to apologize again for sneezing on you. It was an accident, I assure you. An accident.
You fool. Idiot. Imbecile. I never want to see you again. If you ever cross my side again, I will have you exiled forever. Now what is your name? Jericho! You germ spreader. You maggot. You insect. You are lower than an insect. You are the second cousin of a cockroach. You are the son-in-law of a bedbug. You are the nephew of a ringworm. You are nothing, you hear me? Nothing!
And at that moment, something broke inside Jericho that was so vital and so organic that the damage done was irreparable. And something drained out of him that can only be described as the very life force itself. Cherdakov returned home, took off his coat, lay down on the sofa, and died.